Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast.
Welcome back to the lounge.
This is the podcast coming to you from the Blue Ribbon Lounge.
This is the podcast.
The podcast you're listening to on the internet.
Yes, the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast.
We're here. You are there. Invest in the radio waves. Bzz, bzz.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Wherever you are, whenever you are, whoever you are.
However you are.
However you are.
Yes.
And, you know, if you're the creatures that we evolve into in 100 million years and you're still listening to this, it's good to see you, too.
Yes, if you happen to find a hard drive in an archaeological dig.
Yeah, deep beneath the Earth's crust.
Yes.
In our super comfy chairs, you can hear them.
Yes, moving around.
We had chairs back before you existed, too.
Yes, we used chairs.
Because our human legs are squishy and soft.
Yes, they are.
To sit.
All right.
And some things you may not know about us super futuristic
Overlords.
You know, we simpletons of 2025 and previous,
yes,
used to have some misnomers about science, and you'll probably find this hilarious.
Okay.
But hey, we thought them at one time. At least I did. I don't know about you, Davey. I'll let you speak for yourself while we go through them.
Okay, you got some misnomers?
Yeah. So I don't know if have you ever heard, like, in your lifetime you'll eat a bunch of spiders while you sleep?
Yes. I believe that maybe that's an average of like a sample size of people, not necessarily the individual.
Well, and maybe. But it's from what I had found in my super in-depth research.
Yeah,
is that spiders are actually like don't want anything to do with people, because like a spider's legs are like super sensitive to vibrations.
Yeah,
that's how they catch their food, right? Like the strands of the web vibrate when a fly has caught into the spider's web.
Yes, and
they feel them with their little leggies, and they got hairs all over them and whatnots.
Right.
So like when you're sleeping and you're like, see, I know you, Dave, you're snoring up a storm.
Yeah, I sleep with my mouth open. I'm definitely a mouth breather when it comes time to sleep. I'm one of those weird guys that, like, even if I don't have a stuffy nose or anything, sometimes, like, I feel like I'm not getting enough air through my nose.
You gotta have a bigger orifice.
Yeah.
But as you're sleeping, you're like, you know, rolling around and snoring and, you know, so you're like a big vibrating, moving mountain to a spider.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, I mean,
yeah, not me in general. I thought it was going to be like, hey, man.
But in general, people, when they sleep, are like, very, very, not for spiders, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
You know, plus we don't have, like, maybe there's other bugs that could potentially get inside your mouth that are looking for it. Like, I feel like whenever I mow the yard or something, like, a bug will fly right into my eyeball. And I wear glasses.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, that number is not true.
No.
People are not eating a bunch of spiders while they sleep.
I
am sure it happens every once in a while, but
yeah, I think you would probably like dust mites or something would be more of a thing.
For sure, because like those things are microscopic and everywhere, right?
Yeah,
they're just like floating around,
right?
Sometimes, yeah, I'm sure there's different bugs that maybe would have a higher likelihood, but you're not eating spiders all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep your house clean, generally how many spiders are in your house,
actually,
and then how many spiders are wandering into your bedroom, you know.
Yeah, especially like your bed is kind of like a high traffic zone, so they would have no reason to have like webs there most of the time, I would think.
Yeah, because you would think that if there are enough spiders that you're potential to eat one in your sleep, you'd be waking up, walking to the bathroom, running into a spider web, be like, damn it.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Hoarders lately with my wife, and with a giant horde come pests.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's mice, and sometimes, like, if it's really bad, it'll be rats.
Oh, yeah.
But I would imagine an animal like that would want to get into your mouth.
Yeah.
If your breath stinks or you ate something.
Yeah. There was a guy at a party that I went to when I was a kid. Like one of those parties where you're not old enough to be part of the party, but you're there.
Oh, okay.
But the adults are still talking and your little brain's picking up stuff. This one guy was telling a story about he was like on the west end of Davenport in like maybe a shadier area. And they were at a party and a guy like drank a bunch of Jaeger and fell backwards like on a bench seat like in a house and just fell asleep, and everybody's like, he's fine. So and it was in the kitchen. They turned out the lights and they went the next day. Like the guy said, like in the middle of the night, he had to get a glass of water. He turns on the light and all these roaches scatter, and they were like coming out of the guy's mouth and stuff as he was sleeping there on the floor. I was like, never pass out on a stranger's floor.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Also, if you're my friend, don't leave me passed out on the floor. Close my mouth.
Yeah, especially if you know that you got some roaches.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
Because not because of my cleanliness, but I lived in an apartment, and the apartment below us, or below me and my daughter at the time, it was like a younger couple, like early 20s, and they had 2 pit bulls.
Oh, yeesh.
And they lived in the basement apartment, which is just a 1-bedroom, and they half moved out, but then left their dogs in the apartment.
Just barking up a storm or something?
They weren't too bad, but they just pretty much abandoned them. Because I didn't know this until later. The guy upstairs told me that he called animal control a couple of times to be like, hey, there's dogs just in an apartment. And I don't know what animal control can do. You know, they can't like get warrants and bust open doors to get dogs, I don't think.
Well, I would think there's time limits. You know, you got to give warnings and stuff like that. Because if you like post a note on a door and it's obvious that nobody's checked it in 3 days, then those dogs have probably been in there alone for 3 days or something.
Yeah.
Or you have to assume maybe.
Right. And then when they finally like officially moved out, the landlord had to go in there and just rip everything out because like by the dumpster was like the carpet and like molding like that goes around the door and stuff. And after he did that, fucking started having bugs in my house.
Oh, fuck.
And they had to come in and spray.
That sucks.
Yeah. And
it sucks to live like that close to people.
Yeah. To people who don't take care of their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overlords of the future. We here in the 20th century at one time was told our blood is blue until you get cut. You ever hear that?
Yes. That's why that term blue blood.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What does that term mean? Like new?
Well, there's like
you're new?
No. It's like 2 different things because there's like I'm a red-blooded American.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just because they're like red, white, and blue. But then your blue blood is like I don't know what that term means.
An aristocrat.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, like privileged or noble families.
Oh, okay. I thought it had something to do with because I've only seen it. There's a band called the Blue Bloods, and they're kind of like street punk Boston.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it had something to do with being hardcore or like a working class person. But I was totally the opposite.
Or maybe it's like an ironic name.
Maybe, yeah, like the aristocrats, but you're like
the aristocrats.
Yeah, but you're dogs.
But yeah, I don't know when or why I was told that your blood is blue in the veins, and then when you get cut and it gets exposed to the air outside,
it turns red.
Yeah.
But
your blood is always red because it has oxygen in it.
Yes, and we actually have red blood cells.
Yes, red blood cells or what transports the oxygen.
Well, I think because like I'm not pale, but I got good veins.
Yeah,
and they're blue.
Drugs. Yeah. So that the blood cells are red, and depending on how much oxygen you have in your blood, it'll be lighter red for more oxygen or darker red for less oxygen.
Oh, okay.
But when you see your blue veins in your arm, it's an optical illusion that the skin between the vein and like the outside world,
Yeah.
it absorbs all the red light.
Oh.
And so, because like what a color a thing is the color that it reflects.
Yes.
And so your skin absorbs all the red, and then the only thing left is the blue that reflects out. Or whatever.
Okay.
So it's an optical illusion why your veins look blue.
Because so it's kind of like your skin's like the ozone layer.
Yes, kind of.
So that's why it's blue, is because that's the wavelength of light that it reflects from the sun.
Yes.
Or something
well,
like that.
I think the ozone layer reflects it from the ocean.
Is that?
The ocean reflects up and then off back to us. Is what I always thought it was. I could be wrong.
Oh, I thought it was.
Why is the sky blue?
Yeah, I thought it was because of like light coming through a prism.
Or else everything would be blue, wouldn't it? If that was the only color that the ozone layer let in,
Well,
which would be kind of tight.
or it's the one that it lets all the colors in, but maybe that's the one that it bounces off, so that's why you can see it.
We'll circle back to that.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. That's a good jumping off point. So if you want to look that up and then put it over on the Facebook page or comment wherever you're listening underneath.
Yeah, why do you think the sky's blue? I have also heard that when the sun rises and sets, that the color change, like how it's like orange and shit, is because of the layers of like debris in the air.
Okay.
Because like there's like particles floating all around us.
Yeah.
And the majority of that is in like the first 100 feet of the Earth.
Okay.
And then as you get higher, the pressure is lower and the particles are less. So as the sun is setting, you're looking at like the most particles.
So you're looking through all that.
Yeah, you're looking through. I think I saw the average. It was like 3 feet. If you took all of that and condensed it down, it'd be like 3 feet worth of particles.
Yeah.
I don't know how square it would be, but I had heard that that's why sunsets are a different color.
Oh, okay.
And rises.
Yeah.
The toilet water in the southern hemisphere does not spin the opposite direction.
What?
Yeah.
There was a whole part on The Simpsons where
Simpsons did it first.
Yeah, in the American embassy, they had a motor to make the water spin the other way. You know that one because Homer starts crying and singing the national anthem.
But that's kind of the way toilet bowls spin is due to like the manufacturer.
Really?
Yeah, it's like the physics within the toilet bowl. So they could make them spin the opposite direction. But the scientific force called the Coriolis effect.
Yeah.
It does cause like hurricanes and ocean currents to spin in the opposite direction than they would in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
So there is a scientific or like a physics thing to do that, but it's such a light force that your toilet would have to be like the size of Texas for it to actually affect the amount of water.
Okay. So like in a bathtub, you know, when you fill the bathtub up and then it gets that little swirl tornado going on, that still would spin the same way on the southern hemisphere?
I believe so.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, because it is the Cornelius.
Coriolis.
Yeah, all right. Because I thought, wow. Because I think from science class it was talking because it's on the other side, and that gravity is more dense in the center of the Earth, so that's why it spins differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
lied to.
Yeah, that's a misnomer. You're left-brained versus right-brained thinking.
Yeah.
Or like how like left-brained people are better at math.
Yeah.
Or right-brained people are better at art, or vice versa. I'm not 100% sure, but that's a misnomer. But back in the day, that's what people thought, because you had two halves of your brain.
Yeah.
But now with like scientific brain scanning machines, you use all parts of your brains in different types of situations.
I feel like they came up with that because they've either surgically separated them for science back in the day when they could do stuff like that and get away with it. And then, or like somebody gets into an accident and their hemisphere split and then their personality changes. Or there's something known as, I don't know what it's called, but like if your two hemispheres are separated, like your left hand will like grab for my glasses or something, and you didn't even like
involuntarily.
Yeah, it'll like kind of have a mind of its own.
Well, and that could be. So you use both sides during most actions, but maybe there are things that are more prone to either side. But
Yeah.
but they're not mutually exclusive, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because there's so like you have the two hemispheres of your brain, and then they are separated, but not like a wall, but it's like a thick bundle of nerves called a corpus callosum.
Okay.
And that allows, like, that bundle of nerves allows a much easier communication between the two because you're often bouncing back and forth between the two halves. And then, kind of speaking of, maybe just randomly grabbing stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You actually have more than 5 senses.
Okay.
And some of these could, you could shoehorn them into a different sense.
Yeah, I've heard of this before. Like, sense of movement.
Yes. So your proprioception is the sense where your body, where you sense where your body parts are without looking.
Yeah.
Which like helps you touch your nose with your eyes closed, or you can give a high five without looking at your own hand or something.
Right.
Special note, if you need to give a good high five, gun to your head, give a good high five, look at the other person's elbow.
Yes, I know that trick.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because you get a perfect high five every time.
It's not a trick, it's a skill.
Yeah,
it's a
skill.
There's also thermoception, which is like the temperature sense of your skin.
Okay.
And it's more than just like a sense of touch, but you have like millions of tiny little temperature sensors all over your body that tell you if like your coffee is too hot or something.
Right.
And touch would be more like if a surface is smooth or rough,
yeah,
or something like that. And then you also have your equilibrioception, which is the sense of balance.
Yeah.
Which are like tiny little loops of fluids in your ears. And so like you could kind of hamstring some of those into your sense of touch.
Okay.
But they're different.
Yeah. Well, yeah, equilibrium is different than touch.
Yes.
I would think. That's
yeah.
balance, like, yeah. Because you also, you have a sense of, where your body parts, but also spatial awareness. Mm-hmm. Like, because you can, like, you ever had your eyes closed and something passes in front of your face? Yeah. You can kind of sense where it's at, and you can feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Ostriches don't bury their head in the sand.
Oh, really?
No. When they see a predator, they do duck their heads. But it's like a survival camouflage. So like they got like a big bushy body and skinny legs and neck.
Yeah.
So when they duck their head, they look a little bit more like a bush or something.
Right.
And then I had heard that there was some Roman writer who had written about an ostrich ducking its head into the sand, but they believe that it could have been, so like before you had like dedicated scientists. Yeah. It was just like one guy that would try to write everything down that was happening around. That's why you get a bunch of fucked up animal art. Yeah. I can't remember if we had talked about that, but like, you got a guy who's never seen a thing before, then he has to like write it down and describe it. Yeah. Or like, they're just like writing down everything they see, and then as they're passing through to, go kill a bunch of people or something. Yeah. Or maybe trade, I don't know. But they think that this Roman writer Pliny the Elder may have seen an ostrich, which they make nests in shallow holes in the ground. Okay. And they often return to it, and they turn over the eggs with their beaks.
Oh, okay.
So they think that he just saw that one time as they were passing through or something and wrote it down, and it's been kind of gospel until we had scientists that like specifically dedicated to the birthing and mating habits of ostriches, and they were like, actually, no, that's wrong.
Right. Well, is the next one you're going to talk about is the myth about you only use 10% of your brain?
No, but I heard that that's false.
That is false. You use every part of your brain. That's why we have it. It wouldn't develop so big if we didn't need all that stuff.
But maybe only like 10% at a time, because like when I'm using my hand, I'm not using my feet, you know, or something.
Yeah.
Kind of like
it was actually some scientist was dissing other normies.
Fucking these normies.
Yeah, and so he was pretty much like being like, most people only use 10% of their brain, because they're dumb. But then for some reason that stuck, and then people just kept repeating it, saying that, oh, do you know that we only use 10% of our brain? Which, to that guy's credit, would probably make you super frustrated when you're like, oh, you guys are stupid. You only use 10% of your brain, don't you? And then they're like, oh, did you hear we only use 10% of our brain? And then they just start walking around saying that as fact. And he's like, you just proved my point. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Carrots don't help you see better in the dark.
I thought they were just for eyesight.
Well,
because they have carotene.
Ooh, yes. They do have beta carotene, which your body does convert to vitamin A, which is good for eyesight and night vision.
Yeah.
But it's like your body, as long as you're getting enough vitamin A, your vision is as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
But in the 1940s, British pilots were super successful at shooting down German planes in World War II.
Yeah.
And they couldn't reveal that they had like hella good radar and new technology and stuff.
Yeah.
So they were like, they eat a lot of carrots.
Oh, yeah.
And they make them have hella good night
vision.
And people just started running with that. And so even the Germans started feeding their pilots more carrots.
More carrots, yeah.
And then at the time, the British government had a surplus of like 100,000 tons of carrots during the war. So they used this propaganda to get people to eat their carrots.
Yeah.
And they had like a couple of different types of like mascots. I don't know if they were like on, I would have guessed posters and stuff.
Right.
So then that misnomer was just to cover up that they had new technology.
Yeah. Okay. That's like saying, oh, you can't go near Area 51 because of UFOs.
Yeah.
Not because we're making fighter jets and cool new weather balloons.
Yeah. And yeah, to the credit, it does have beta carotene. And it's like, if you never eat anything with beta carotene in it, which a bunch of stuff does have it, your eyesight will just get worse,
right?
But it can't get like super better.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of something that like people who take a crap load of vitamins, at some point you're not getting the return that you think you are, because your body is only going to absorb what it needs. It's not going to absorb extra. So,
but I mean, as long as you're getting what it needs, right?
Yeah, because I do like a 1 a day and some.
I do a 10 a day.
10 a day.
See, just keeping it regular, dude.
Oh, okay.
Each pill has 10% of my daily vitamins.
Oh, so then you have to take 10 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I'll do like an omega or like a fish oil and some
brain growth,
some wart one, St. John's wort or
help
something.
You with your warts?
No, it's supposed to be good for like your circulatory.
Oh, okay.
Like it's good for like your liver. It's good for
fatty acids.
Yeah, things for cleansing.
Oh,
to help you
be regular,
work toxins and crap out of your body. Yeah. And then I do a probiotic.
Oh, I hear good things about probiotics. What do you get, like fucking 20, 30 billion?
I don't know. It's just a little pill, and
Oh, okay.
it's probably to help digestion, but I can use to lose a couple pounds. But that one I always trade out. And the St. John's one's new, but when that one runs out, I probably won't get a new one. But I always get the one a day and the fish oil, and then I'll get like one for brain or one whatever's on sale.
Hell
Just
yeah,
throw that
dude.
in the mix.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, I guess I'll see what this joint one does.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
guess I'll be hella flexible for...
Yeah, a
2
month
months.
or 2 months. Yeah.
Hey, that's all right. You got to try new stuff. Yeah, I just thought those kind of misnomers were pretty good. I especially like that carrot one.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I never thought about that. But then, just to break in real quick here,
Ooh.
on June 27th through the 29th,
Breaking.
the Blue Ribbon Lounge will be located in the Riverfront Convention Center.
Riverfront is correct.
It will be... I think that's right. Yes, the River Center in downtown Davenport.
Hell yeah.
Yes. So if you ever wanted to pick up a sticker, or maybe
We got lots of them.
have 2 cents you want to maybe get on the pod,
Tell us your deepest thoughts.
yes, you can come on down and see us. And there will be other people there. A lot of voice actors for a lot of anime stuff that I don't watch.
And a lot of like cartoons that were just past my time.
Yeah. Well, like one of the ladies from Kim Possible, and
The bad guy?
whoever the green and black. Yeah, the bad guy.
She's a bad guy lady.
Yeah. Samurai Jack.
Oh, that's kind of tight.
Yeah. One of the Power Rangers. One of the new ones. Not like,
Oh.
yeah.
Did the Green Power Ranger die?
Oh, VR Rangers or VR Warriors. There's 2 of those. The Yellow Ranger's going to be there. Ooh, the Red and Blue Ranger.
Whoa. All the Rangers.
Yeah. And then there's going to be the Cinema Snob and the Nostalgia Critic. They're
yeah.
like big YouTube guys. I don't know if they're big, but they're YouTube fellas.
I mean, it is kind of hard to say because it's like sometimes I feel like obviously we're not big, but like,
Right.
even guys that have like 1 million followers, like, is that really big?
Well, I mean, if it's big enough that you go to these things and people come to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And so you knew you have not know personally, but you have seen some of the content by the Cinema Snob.
yeah, and I also watched the Nostalgia Critic.
What kind of videos have you liked of theirs?
Well, they do they review movies,
Yeah.
and the Nostalgia Critic started by doing like old movies, like
Okay.
ones from your childhood and stuff. That's why the nostalgia part. But now he's just kind of been around so long that he just does movies,
Oh, okay.
you know, so it doesn't have to be like nostalgia type stuff.
Which one was? I think I watched one, and he was like in a car after a movie.
That's the Cinema Snob. They do movie reviews, and he'll just go watch like a new movie, and then usually have a friend or somebody with them, and then they'll just like riff on it from what their first initial thoughts of it.
Okay.
You know, not like an actual writ down review with jokes and like.
Oh, so they'll do like a just out of the gate one, and then they'll like go back and kind of think about it, or
Well, to do like a just out of the gate one for like Final Destination Bloodlines, and then they'll go back and do like a real one, and then like get everybody's name and then have clips of it and like polish it up.
oh, okay, that's cool.
Or they'll do like, just to stay on that example, like the Final Destination just came out, so then they'll go back and review like all the Final Destination movies and give their takes on it. And
I think I've seen 1 and 2, but I remember them being good.
yeah,
To this day, I can't drive behind a semi truck with fucking
yeah.
logs all over it.
yeah, that's what everybody remembers is that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll be doing that at the end of the month.
Hey, that'll be fun.
Yeah, and depending on Matt's schedule, that'll either be that Monday or sometime maybe later, since there's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
With a weekend worth of content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So we might, next episode might be a little later.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Chopped up.
Chopped up.
We'll see.
Yeah.
That'll be fun though.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Davey.
And then here's a conspiracy. Did you know that insurance companies
Oh, golly.
give money to police officers?
What?
Yes.
For why?
Donations, like tax write-offs type stuff. But like Geico, Progressive, Allstate, they're like the big three. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're like when the like police force looks at their donations, they're not like the top three, but they're definitely in the top 10.
Okay.
And Geico, their parent company,
Geico's not the top. They're owned by somebody else. General Mills. Pepsi.
Something like that. I'm trying to.
You have the smallest.
I know. I was gonna say this printed off way small. PRC.
And you took your glasses off, but
well, because they're called PLC, but PRC, yeah. And that's the parent company of Geico, and Plaza Resources Company, PRC, okay. Yeah. But in 1991, they loaned a company called LTI, pretty much $1 million to like bail them out because LTI was trying to come up with this laser technology mm-hmm. for speed guns, because they used to be radar guns, they would have to ping and bounce off.
Okay.
But I guess a laser is more accurate. And this LTI company were like right on the brink of cracking it, but then they were in debt. Mm-hmm. And so then PRC came in, gave them pretty much $1 million to finish up and produce these laser guns.
Damn.
And then part of the deal is that if anybody bought the guns, then they had to be donated to police enforcement or like I don't know what you call it, like a precinct or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, so Geico, and they were actually called back in the 90s, the police force would call them Geico guns. They'd be like, oh, we got a bunch of these Geico guns in. And so they were to help catch speeders. And when you get speeding tickets, your rates go up on your insurance.
Oh, boy.
I know. So I kind of thought that was crazy. Yeah. I didn't know that the insurance companies are over there donating money to the police force. Because if you look it up on the internet, it'll be like, oh, for roadway safety and help promote classes for better driving. But no, they're like giving them radar guns and getting them out there so they can write you more tickets, so then your insurance rates go up.
Fuckers.
Yeah.
Got us coming and going.
Right. It's kind of what I thought. And when you have a parent company like that, it doesn't say Geico on the donation check, but you're still profiting off them having better radar guns and faster cars, shit like that. Yeah.
So they're like, that's why they ask for your insurance when they pull you over. They're like, who are we going to fucking bill this one to?
Yeah, and that's got to be another thing. I'm sure the insurance lobbyists have pushed it to make it so that everybody has to have insurance who has a car.
Yeah.
So they tried to do that with regular insurance under Obama.
Yes, that was and it was like Obama was trying to pass whatever was before Obamacare. But then, like, when it got to, like, the House and the Senate, it got all chopped up and watered down and shit.
Well, because I get that healthcare should be a right. Mm-hmm. And it kind of is, because if you get your finger chopped off, you can go to the emergency room, and they will take care of you. You're just going to get screwed over. Mm-hmm. But then you can also just not pay it. So
you could.
But, yeah, that ruins your credit and, puts you in debt. And so I get where he was coming from. See, it's like one of those two-sided things.
And it was like the insurance companies were complaining because there was a bunch of people without insurance, and so that's why their rates had to be high. But then they passed this where everybody had to have insurance.
Yeah.
And then they just kept the rates the same, and then just like bare bonesed out this like quote unquote Obamacare insurance. And So like the rates never changed. More people had insurance. They pocketed all the money.
Right.
And like the bare bones stuff, because he kind of wanted it to become more of like a Medicare for all type thing.
Yeah.
But with it going through, the hands of the Republicans, they got all chopped up and fucked up.
Yeah. Well, because like in other countries, universal health care, the government will set the price and be like, a prosthetic leg, we're only going to pay $1,000 for that. So then the insurance companies or the makers have to fit that. They can't be like, so then they bid, so there's bidding wars. And then if you want to be the one that makes the legs, you got to undercut the other guy. And so the consumer ends up getting a better deal, even though the consumer is the government in that situation. So the idea of Obamacare or whatever is that if everybody has insurance and then you have the government can give you insurance, so then the insurance companies would in theory try to undercut the government to give insurance at a better rate so they can get the money instead of the government, and then that way it would be affordable and everybody would be covered with insurance in case something happened. That's not really what happened.
Yeah.
And then people got mad because then you got docked on your taxes if you didn't have insurance.
Yeah. Well, and then there's that kind of misnomer of, when you talk to people in Canada, they don't like their health system either. And it's like, there are some people who don't like it because it's like, if you get cut really bad at work, you can go in immediately and get fixed up immediately and leave without a bill.
Right.
But if you have brain cancer, then it's a more rigorous process to go and get treatment. But that's the same thing it is here. Yeah. And we also complain about that, and we also complain about the little shit. So it's like, doesn't it sound better to at least not have to complain about the little shit? Yeah, and it's one of those things where if you go to your like family doctor and he's like, you've got a lump, then you go right away to the lump guy, and then they scan you, and then you go and you get scheduled to get cut open. It's not like, you need a referral, and then you gotta wait until we can fit you in and find a person that's on your insurance.
Yeah, exactly. And even in places that have universal health care, there's still insurance, because you can still buy your own insurance if you're like, I don't want the government cheese, I want the good cheese. Yeah. So you can still pay to get the expert guy that comes in, puts his golf bag down and like, what's we got going on here? Yeah.
The good cheese.
Yeah. But that's also one of those things, kind of like these corporations were given to charity. Just happens that one of the charities is the the internal brothers of police, whatever their union is. Yeah. So it's like, cool, you're giving to charity, but then also you're kind of 3 levels down getting a kickback from it. Yeah. Which is kind of like healthcare for all. It's good because the rates get lower and blah, blah, blah. But then if everybody has to have insurance, then the insurance company is making more money, Yeah,
because it's like, even if like they're not directly influencing the police, their like decisions on who to give tickets and stuff. Yeah. They're at least making it easier to give you tickets.
Yes, if they can give them the tools to then be able to track your speed and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, it's a wild world out there.
It is kind of crazy.
We're just trying to live in it.
Yeah, for the most part.
Do you have any more? Do you want to do more?
That kind of led me the whole insurance thing. That have you heard of the Snapshot by Progressive?
Is that where it like you plug it into your car?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because I guess other companies have that too. I guess they just don't advertise it. Yeah. And there's one that you can plug into your car, and it'll do things like speed and distance, and something like a gyroscope in there, so it can tell hard brakes and like fast acceleration. Yeah. And then there's also one, I guess that's pretty much it, but then there's an app on your phone that will also track your call record, because if you're moving at this time and you were on your phone, then it knows that you were using your phone. It says it doesn't know who you were talking to or what you were doing on your phone.
Yeah,
it just knows that you were on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like a thing to like a data farm.
Well, like God
we can
forbid your
farm your data a little bit.
Yeah, God forbid your fucking partner or your kid uses your phone while you're in the car.
Yeah. But they say there's like a gyro in your phone, because that's how the phone screen flips. And it can tell somehow if you're the passenger or the driver. I mean, like if you're like moving to the right or the left in the car, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. It was saying something like it could tell you. But it also seems like it's a 2 out of 10 people don't get any benefit from it. The rates actually go up.
But
yeah, and then it also says, but I've also
rates go up
20%. So
that's 2 out of 10.
That's 2 out of 10.
Yeah,
I'm bad at percentages.
It's you just gotta move.
So that'd be 20
once.
people out of 100. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brake and acceleration. But you put it in like when you first get your insurance or you re-up it. You're like, I want to do the snapshot thing. They're like, okay, and they might give you like $20 off or something. But then your rate doesn't change until you've had it in there until like 6 months to a year, whenever you like re-up your policy.
And you're actually a really bad driver, so it's gonna go up.
And then it goes up, yeah. Because there was a guy on Reddit that said that, oh, we'll just put it in one of our work trucks, and that he said like it beeps if you like brake too hard or speed, so it was like making it extra like crazy at driving. And that a lot of the people agreed with him, where he said he ran a lot more yellow lights because he like
Didn't want a hard stop.
Yeah, because it like, so he's like, I'll just go, even though I had enough time to stop, but it would have been a hard stop, and then I would have got dinged.
Damn.
Yeah. And he said it ended up costing him like $200, because when he went to re-up, they're like, nah, your rates have gone up.
Fuck.
Yeah. But then a lot of people under there were also saying like, well, it could be your driving because I've done it and it's gone down. So it kind of makes sense if 80% of the people get a deal out of it. Yeah, but
you just got to really consider long and hard if you are a good driver or not.
Yeah, or if it's worth, having the insurance track your car.
Well, yeah.
And it probably, yeah, and it has a GPS on it too. So then it knows where you're at.
Well, I got this app on my phone now, and it tracks me and my wife and my kid and tells us all where we're at. It's called Life 360.
Yeah.
And at first, luckily, my phone was too old to be able to get it. But then I got a newer phone.
Right.
It's still an old phone, but and then the wife wanted me to get it. And I was like, why? So you can tell when I'm going to the strip club or the...
Right. That just seems like they need to keep tabs on you.
Yeah. But I have found it to be nice for when, like, I do this part-time job mowing on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of see, like, if my wife's working late, then I don't need to rush home or stuff like that. It could be easily a text, but instead I just creep on her location.
Right.
And I don't do, like, sometimes I stop and get a little treat from the gas station.
Yeah. Some ice
but
cream or something.
I shouldn't be so hard on myself for that.
Yeah.
Hiding fucking snacks and soda pops from the wife.
Well, sometimes you just want to buy yourself something.
I don't have $2 more to get you an ice cream.
Yeah, I just wanted
I just
wanted to run through Whitey's real quick. It'll be gone before you even know I get home.
Go park in a back alley and eat my shake and throw it in somebody else's trash.
Right.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
There's I see his face. I just drew a blank. But a human person, comedian.
And
Chappelle. Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
He had a joke where his wife had that, and so when she'd run to the grocery store with the kids and he'd be feeling a little randy, he'd be like, "She's still at the grocery store. Even if she leaves now, I got 15 minutes."
You'll be able to get 1 or 2 out in that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. But I don't know, because I was looking at the insurance thing, and then I'm like, well, what is that? Because it plugs into your car. And it just seemed odd when they rolled it out in the first place. They'd be like, that's too, to me, intrusive.
Yeah, and well, it's all voluntary.
Yeah, true.
But also, I wonder if it depends on like the year of the car, because I think a lot of cars have Wi-Fi enabling. Like my car is so old. How would it communicate? Like, does it only communicate? It stores up the data and communicates when I get home, and it hits my Wi-Fi.
Or the one that you put in your car, maybe it stores it, and then you have to mail it back to them.
Okay.
And then they plug it in and get all your data that way.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's probably Wi-Fi, or if it's through your phone, I'm sure it's...
Oh, could communicate through your phone.
Through the internet.
Because you probably got to get that app.
Yeah, which is starting to be really annoying. I don't know if you've noticed this, because you probably get apps.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I wanted to listen to some music through Spotify, because I wanted to listen to the whole album in one go.
What album?
It was Hot Mulligans.
Is that the album?
No, that's the name of the band. The album is like Why Would I Watch?
Oh, okay.
And
I don't know if I've heard of the Hot Mulligans.
They're post emo. I just heard about them.
Okay.
And
put it on my list.
Yeah. And I was just watching this guy on YouTube, and he was talking about them, and he was like, "This, if you like this kind of music, this is the intro CD I would get." So I'm like, "Well, I'll check it out." And the first song kind of hooked me, so I was like, "I want to listen to the whole album." So I'm like, "I'll go to Spotify." I do have like an account, but as soon as I plugged it in, it's like, "Oh, you must be using incognito or a blocker, and we can't do whatever." But if you download the app, because I went through my settings, I'm like, the only thing I don't have it no protection, but I don't have it like no cookies, you know, because you have to download some cookies when you go to websites for them to work properly. So I'm like, well, the only other option is no protection, and I'm not doing that with my phone. I'm too tinfoil hat to do that. So, and then I've run into that with other things that I just look up through the internet. Mm-hmm. It'll run crappy, or it'll just like stop, and it's like, well, or it'll pop up and be like,
YouTube?
I do YouTube.
That album's on YouTube.
Yeah, that's how I ended up listening to it.
Okay.
But YouTube sucks because it'll just be like right in the middle of a song, and then it'll be like Geico.
Oh,
you know,
which is
so simple. A caveman can do it, and it's like, well, you just fucked up that song. Now I got to go back to the start of the song so I can get the whole feel. Because sometimes like longer comedy, like an hour comedy set. Mm-hmm.
It'll cut in right at the wrong time.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you just broke up the punchline. Like,
yeah, which it's just like, and then like I listen to a lot of podcasts on YouTube, and I have premium.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
It probably has like fucking 5 3-minute ads.
Right.
And then YouTube adds on, 10 1-minute ads. And
right.
It's like, Jesus. And it's like, gotta try to skip it right to when they start talking again.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's just terrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because YouTube, you can get the premium or whatever, but I feel like it's kind of like how Apple did the downloads. It would slow your phone down, so you got to buy the new Apple.
Yes.
I feel like that if they have an app that's popular, if you're just using it through the computer or just the internet instead of the app, they kind of, you're on your mobile device.
They try to make it tough for you.
Yeah, so that way you're just going to be like, crap, I'll download the app, screw it.
Yeah.
But nah.
Well, or like if, like you were saying, with Apple downloading stuff to make your phone slower, I mean, YouTube has incentive to put 20 ads in a 5-minute video.
Yeah.
So that you get annoyed enough to buy premium.
Right.
Even though it's like $13. I don't know if it's a month. Or probably a month, but which is kind of a lot now that I say it out loud. Ugh,
yeah.
Yuck. But can that really be that much? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you get 100 people to do it, that's $1,300.
That's true. And they probably got like a million people doing it.
So it's good revenue.
Million.
Yeah.
A month.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's why, like, when everybody was cutting the cord when Netflix first kind of came out, and then people were like, "Oh, we don't need the cable. Cut the cable." I guess.
Yeah.
So they were getting rid of cable and just going streaming because Hulu used to be free for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You could watch The Simpsons and shit like that on Hulu, and then you had Netflix for all your movies.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, "What do we need cable for?" But now there's how many streaming platforms, and all of them cost $10 a month. So
Yeah.
you're still paying $70 like you were when you had cable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like,
Well, cable, my mom was telling me it was going to be like fucking $250 a month or something.
oh, really? Is that with internet?
With internet and phone.
Yeah, because they still bundle phone with that.
Yeah.
And they're like, how many people?
She still has a landline.
Oh, okay.
She's crazy.
I think my mom finally got rid of hers. But her and my sister, they had that bundle, but it used to, the gimmick was it would pop up on the TV and tell you who was calling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the caller ID would pop up
that's
at the
crazy.
bottom. Yeah. It's weird. That might have just been a North Carolina thing.
It could have been regional.
Yeah.
I'd never seen that. Or it could have been like an add-on or something.
Yeah. Did you have another one?
I did. It's kind of long. If you had some more, we can do that instead.
Well, what's your long one? Well, let's see what it's about.
It's about I was Googling that YouTube thing. CoIntelPro.
CoIntelPro.
It's the FBI program. It's short for Counterintelligence Program. It was a covert operation from 1956 to 1971, conducting over 2,000 operations targeting black, brown, and indigenous movements, and also feminist movements. It was said to have started with like communism.
Okay.
And slowly seeping into socialism movements.
And then socialism, communism?
It's a better version.
Yeah. Because that was like the Red Scare and that one guy, McCarthy, right? McCarthyism?
Maduro? McCarthyism?
Well, he was doing
Marxism?
No, there was a senator that was putting people on trial and then labeling them communist, especially like in Hollywood and stuff like that. And yeah, during the Red Scare.
But no, I think it's like I think they call it the horseshoe.
Okay.
Where if you get too far communist and too far socialist, it kind of turns into the same thing.
Oh, I gotcha.
But in the mid 20th century, during the Cold War against the USSR and communism, the government was on like super high alert.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it was on super high alert for potential national threats from outside, but also it was worried about the same thing from the inside. Coming from like the civil rights movements and a lot of anti-war protests.
Right.
And they were breaking out all over the country. And this would have been close to the Vietnam War.
Right.
J. Edgar Hoover, future president.
Yeah.
But at this time, he was the director of the FBI. And
no, J. Edgar was never president. Herbert was.
Oh, okay. Herbert Hoover.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking Hoover. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, see, we try to fact check around here.
Yeah.
And, if we ever get anything wrong, feel free to put it in the comments. And always do research if you find topics interesting.
Yeah.
We do our best here, but ain't perfect. So J. Edgar Hoover, never the president.
Nope.
At this time.
But he wore dresses.
Oh. Just like a president.
Yes.
At this time, he was the director of the FBI since 1924, and he saw a necessity to take action with all these internal movements.
Yeah.
And he saw the FBI as essential to protecting the country, and the department expanding and growing from a crime-fighting role, protecting the country from like domestic terrorism and serial killers, to fighting against perceived internal social threats. So some of the political groups that CoIntelPro was aimed at was the Communist Party, Black Panther Party, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement, and anti-Vietnam War protesters, student organizations, women's liberation movement, American Indian movement, also called AIM, and it had something to do with the Wounded Knee standoff. There was
Freedom by Rage Against the Machine.
Okay.
That's what that song's about.
Okay. A lot of the information I found was mostly with Martin Luther King and the Black Panther parties.
Okay.
But, I mean, I thought it was interesting enough, and it got to be a lot of information. But, and I did see that they also had, like, the KKK and the Minutemen on their radar.
Yeah. Probably the Michigan militia also.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so the tactics that they were using were like wiretaps, mail interceptions, physical surveillance. They would infiltrate these groups.
Yeah.
And so discourse and distrust among the members.
Right.
And also psychological warfare with like blackmail and things like that.
Yeah.
Which I guess like sowing, intrigue and distrust would also be maybe more of a psychological warfare.
Yeah. Well, that's that. There's a name for it. Agent provocateurs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where they'll be like, oh, there's a protest. Well, we'll put some guys in there that will start, breaking windows and then make it a thing. So then the FBI or whoever can come in and just clear them out of there.
Well, and then those people who have malicious intent, will create a mob mentality.
Yeah.
Because if it's a peaceful protest, but people's, energies are kind of high.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to, burn down a building.
Right.
If you got some people in there that will burn down a building,
Yeah.
maybe then that is the spark that lights the rest of the people.
Yeah, because they did that with these movements. They did it with Occupy Wall Street when people were camping in the park at Wall Street. They would go in and like distribute CDs that had the anonymous face on it, and usually maybe they would just throw it in someone's tent or just like hand it out, and you're like, oh, cool, anonymous, that's the whole thing, we're fighting back. But then it had like CP on it, so then they could bust you with child pornography and be like, what's this? And they're like, the guy, they were just they're passing it out, and then the news is like, they're passing out child porn at the thing. And then it's like,
and then those words are super skewed by all the medias.
yeah, and then before you know it, people are like, well, I guess we'll just abandon it because we're seen as weird child pornographers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at this time, the CIA actually had their own domestic spying program called Operation Chaos.
Oh, no.
Which I had heard in this research, but I didn't look into.
Yeah.
So this Dr. T.R.M. Howard, predominant black surgeon, entrepreneur, and civil rights leader, was super critical on the FBI's inaction with several hate crimes, some of which were like the murders of Emmett Till and George Washington Lee.
Okay.
And so this outspoken criticism aimed the FBI at the Black Civil Rights Movement, starting with Southern Christian Leadership Conference, on the grounds that they were leading communist values into the U.S.
Okay.
So they worded everything around that group to be like, these are communists.
Yeah.
And it like totally fucked up the group. During the CoIntelPro Operation Black Hate, the FBI used wiretaps and harassment, and then and like the wiretaps were okayed by like President Kennedy and was it Governor Bobby Kennedy?
Yeah.
The FBI like convinced them to be like, you got to do this. They're fucking terrorists.
Right. Yeah.
And so they like even okayed it at like the highest peaks, and with this wiretapping and the informants that they were putting into these programs. They got a bunch of information on MLK, and in 1964, an anonymous letter showed up at Dr. King's house, and one of the lines in it was, "King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do it. This exact number has been selected for a specific reason. It has definite practical significance." And from what I had heard, it was like 34 days before they didn't want him to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay.
And it also included like phone records of Dr. King having an affair. Or maybe it was even like recorded or something. But I remember the affair being a big deal. But after receiving the letter, King did not give in, and the assistant FBI director Cartha Delac began leaking out the blackmail to the news outlets. In 1968, during this operation, a memo was released within the FBI stating they feared Dr. King was becoming a messiah figure, and would unite the various civil rights groups that the FBI feared would lead to an internal armed revolt.
Yeah.
And then they ended up killing him.
Right.
Of course.
Well, yeah, that's one we should get into one of these days.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm almost surprised why we haven't yet.
Yeah, I don't know why it wasn't on the list.
And maybe it was.
Yeah,
I haven't looked at the list in a long time.
And also, at that time, they were doing a lot of misinformation with the media. So I read this book. It's called Black Like Me, which is about a white guy that makes himself black.
Okay.
And then goes through the South to just like get the perspective of, you know, a black man at that time. And he goes through and he does see how it's different and yada, yada, yada. But near the end, he was talking about when they did kind of get their civil rights, that the news started putting out stuff like, the African Americans are rioting in Des Moines and they're going to be coming your way, or there's a riot in Chicago. And he's like, there were no riots. And he actually became like a person for the civil rights movement and actually like marched. There's pictures of him next to Martin Luther King and stuff during these marches. And he's like, none of our intel or none of the stuff that they were getting in from other black leaders, that there were riots, but they were hearing it like on the radio. But they would put them like here in the Quad Cities and say they're rioting in Des Moines, look out, they're going to start moving towards the smaller towns. So then people here will start freaking out, and then you would like, you know, kind of get some backlash or some propaganda against being like, yeah, they should have their rights.
Yeah. And then another thing that they did while the FBI was ramping up attacks on Black Panther Party in predominant cities, like some of the bigger chapters, if that's what it's called, of the Black Panther Party was like San Diego, LA, Oakland, Philadelphia, Chicago. The FBI would coordinate police raids into party leaders' homes without warrants, where many of the higher level members would be shot and killed. On December 4th, 1969, a prominent Black Panther member in Chicago, Fred Hampton, was drugged to be rendered incapacitated by the FBI. The FBI infiltrator, William O'Neill, and then Chicago PD tactical unit was deployed at his home, where he was shot and killed in his bed in cold blood, pretty much. Like he was. It's not like he was, defending himself or even like. From what I had heard, it's not like he was like running or like had a spoon in his hand that looked like a gun.
Right.
But he was like in his bed and they just,
Yeah. And I wonder how they spin that, because like there was that lady that was shot in her bed because her boyfriend had a warrant, or there was some kind of somebody called about domestic dispute, but then the cops busted in and just started shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, oops, it was the wrong house. Oh, those guys are suspended without pay. You know, that kind of thing where that's
Except
what they...
it was probably with pay.
Well, yeah, but I mean, now that you see it, they're like, oh, the FBI targeted these people. But at the time of it happening, they'd be like, oh, it was just a raid on the wrong drug house or something. Yeah.
And then many of the leaders who were spared death, would be arrested under false pretenses. Elmer Geronimo Pratt, another Black Panther Party leader, was arrested under false pretenses and accused of crimes he didn't commit. Evidence was falsified, witnesses were intimidated, and legality was twisted to serve whatever ends the FBI wanted. Pratt ended up serving 27 years in prison, and like witnesses being tampered with and stuff like that. That sounds like mafia stuff. You know? And then far right white extremist groups, like the KKK and the Minutemen, were on the FBI radar. Yeah, but they favored those types of organizations because they were obviously more in line with the status quo at the time. Right, and they were used to they used people within the organization who was on FBI payroll to manipulate the groups and to gain information, and they used them to oppose the groups of color when they would have marches and stuff. It was shown that one member of the KKK, Gary Thompson Rowe, was on the FBI payroll when the act of executing violence such as the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing happened. The bombing of a Black Baptist church in Birmingham, Alabama on September 15th, 1963. It killed 4 members, and I'm pretty sure they were kids. Ooh. And then they injured 22. The Minutemen was a 1960s terrorist group that fought against pro-civil rights groups. And then this kind of all culminated... Oh, actually, you know what? I missed a whole thing on Malcolm X. During this time, the Nation of Islam was trying to get brown people's rights, and the Organization of Afro-American Unity was trying to get black people's rights, and they were both known with associating with Elijah Malik Sabash, or Malcolm X, as he's more widely known, using surveillance and infiltration and rumor mongering. The FBI stoked unrest between the two groups, eventually causing the leader of the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, to send a gunman to kill Malcolm X. So they spread a bunch of rumors back and forth to where the two parties who were trying to work together to gain rights for everybody split up, which is what they wanted, and then to take out to fight one of each their own. And then in 1971, during the Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier boxing match, which was at the time was one of the most watched fights. A group of activists, the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI, broke into an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania, where they stole and uncovered documents detailing the CoIntelPro activities. They originally went in to go burn the whole place to the ground, so that they would lose all their information. But before they did that, they were like, oh shit, this is hella deep. And so they took it and released it. And then when it got released, it obviously outraged the public and led to a Senate investigation called the Church Committee, led by Frank Church. Within a year, Hoover declared the CoIntelPro program to be over, and eventually other documents were released from the FBI on this program. These were heavily redacted, heavily altered. and a lot of stuff just wasn't released.
Yeah.
And what kind of caught my eye with this was, all of the kind of historical repetition of the Patriot Act, which is now legal,
Right.
to do a lot of these things that they were
wiretap
doing.
and spy on American soil.
Yep. And then we were kind of talking about the BLM protests.
Yeah.
How were they, or how were they manipulating those situations as well?
Yeah, because I know back then, 5 years ago, seeing things of people being like, there's just a pallet of bricks on this street corner for some reason where they knew the protest was going to be walking through. It's like, it's weird that that's just right there. Yeah.
Well, and then, I feel like a lot of people, my perception is that people who are against these movements have a convenient blind eye to things like that.
Yeah.
They're shuttling people in who will cause discontent,
right,
or leaving a pallet of bricks somewhere. And it's like, but you're still saying that those groups are bad for having a public, what do you call that?
Demonstration,
yeah. Like protest, public protests. And then like those people are super violent and trying to destroy our country.
Yeah.
But then you also, I think those people also believe that when it's convenient for them, that there's good people on both sides.
Yeah.
That really grinds my gears.
Right. I've been in some protests and I've never seen them go crazy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So.
Fuck them.
Exactly.
And we're in a little tiny town, so.
Yeah, and the
city.
cops aren't gonna start pepper spraying, or because I feel like sometimes they escalate.
Oh yeah.
Because I just saw a thing today where there was this Australian reporter. Because I guess there were some protests in California over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Do you know what it's for? Well,
I think it was
ice for the ice.
Because like the immigration czar, I believe it was him, released a thing that's like, you need to stop focusing on criminals and start going into churches and jobs and Home Depots.
Oh,
and so then I started doing that,
right?
And then they released the people started protesting, and then they brought in the National Guard.
Yeah.
Which, from what I heard, they were mostly just protecting buildings.
Okay.
And not really getting into it, but the police were pepper spraying and shooting rubber bullets.
Yeah.
I watched a video where this reporter.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
This Australian reporter she was at the front of the protest, talking like
back turned to the police.
Yeah,
so the camera could catch them both.
And then you just see a cop. He's got his rubber bullet gun, and then he just turns and shoots her in the leg.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Pah!" And somebody yells at, "You fucking shot the reporter!"
And then the cameraman like runs.
Yeah, and she had a microphone. She didn't have like any kind of press credentials like on her, or like a jacket or anything that said press. And I'm not sure in this day and age. I don't know what the cameraman has. Does he just have like an iPhone 12 or whatever the latest one is?
Probably not.
I mean, if he has like an actual camera,
yeah,
you would think that they would be like, "Oh, that's
even if
the
he
news."
has an iPhone, like, I don't.
Yeah, and it's not like she was doing. I know they were like wanting him to get out of the street because they were in the middle of the street blocking traffic, but he wasn't even like. Nobody yelled, "Hey, get out! This is your warning." He was just like, pop, and shot her. I'm like, that's crazy.
In the back.
Yeah. And see, that's how things get escalated.
Yeah.
That's how someone can see that and be like, I'm going to retaliate for her and throw a brick at the guy, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then Donald Trump's talking about sending in Marines who are like, well, yeah, what do you think about that? What would...
No. I mean, that's hard to say. But it's like, I would feel like the majority of people would, as a Marine, would not want to do that because that's not what you're doing. You're supposed to go out and terrorize some other country, not our own country. but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist.
yeah.
I think you say it the other way around.
But at the same time, it's like, you don't want to have to go fight your brother. You're
Yeah.
like, no, this is my neighborhood. This is my country. I'm not going to go and tell them that their freedom of speech and freedom of protest and freedom of the news,
Yeah, because I would
freedom of press, I guess.
Yeah, I would assume that a Marine would never train with like dummy rounds or nothing. Well, maybe like dummy rounds, but like not like a rubber bullet.
Oh no, like in crowd control situations. No, but yes, because if you're sent to like an embassy or you're doing like a checkpoint and then all of a sudden all the locals are going to swarm you and start protesting that you're there, you kind of have to know crowd control to an extent, but that's
I always forget that you're a Marine.
yeah,
You are a Marine.
I'm pretty laid back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's me. Well, just me. I'm laid back. If they're like, no, we're gonna go. All right, you're gonna go deploy. Like, oh, cool. Where are we going? Like Afghanistan, South Africa, South America. No, California. I'd be like, no, this is fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to do that.
But you wouldn't have a choice, right?
I'd be like, can someone else go?
That's crazy.
But then there's people, because just say the military takes people from every walk of life. So you're going to find people that are going to be like, yeah, let's shut down these long-haired hippies.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure there were probably a lot of people in your boot camp.
Yeah.
And you eventually got positioned at a job, so there's probably less Marines there because you did like helicopter stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you went through at least boot camp with some guys that were like kind of all about it.
Oh, no, because I was stationed on the East Coast, and that's a big Marine base. There's two big. There's one on each coast, and we were right next to that. So we were in a Marine town, and yeah, cowboy boots and belt buckles, and like, yeah, not those kind of people, but yeah, the ones that are like going to be like American flag and 4th of July, and I bleed red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I mean, there's people that go a little too hard in the paint on everything.
yeah, they're on both sides.
Yeah.
That's why they're able to show, hey, look at this crazy screaming lady because Trump got re-elected. And then, okay, we'll look at this guy with his jack truck and his Trump flag 20 feet high driving through his neighborhood blasting Leonard Skinner. Like, yeah. But those are all the extremes.
And all they got to do is get one of those extremes on camera and post it on the news and say, this is every supporter.
Yeah.
And people believe it because people only use 10% of their brain.
Exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a good time. And that's just a little bit of our life right now.
Yes.
You future beings.
Yes. You're lizard overlords.
Lizard overlords. Thank you so much for keeping us alive and giving us our 3 rations of pills.
They'll use this in their schools to show why they decided to come out of the hollow earth and take over, because the mammals were just wrecking everything up here, being dumb.
The monkey people.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Descendants.
I redact that. That may come off a little rough.
Yeah. Mammals.
Yeah, mammals.
Those mammals.
Those
yeah.
Bipeds.
Yeah, those crust walkers.
Crust walkers. Well, hope you guys had a good time. I know I did.
Yes. It was good.
Yeah. Be good to yourselves out there.
Yes. And remember, if you want to make a hanky dance, put a little boogie in it.
Check. Check.
Doot.
Do-do-do. Oops.